In the dim glow of an underground bunker deep beneath the rugged mountains of Iran, General Amir Khosravi gripped the cold metal switch in his trembling hand. It was no ordinary device. It was a dead man's switch, designed to unleash hell if his heart stopped beating or if he released his hold. The year was 2015, and Amir, a brigadier general in the Revolutionary Guard, had spent decades climbing the ranks of a command structure built on paranoia, loyalty, and unyielding doctrine. One wrong move, one flicker of doubt, and the missiles poised in silos across the desert would roar to life, targeting enemies half a world away. But on this night, as alarms blared and intelligence reports screamed of an imminent strike from the west, Amir wasn't thinking about orders or ideology. He was thinking about a little girl named Sarah, whose innocent face had haunted him for years. A face from a village he had once ordered bombed in the name of national security. Amir's life had been a tapestry of discipline and sacrifice. Born in a small town near Tehran in the aftermath of the revolution, he joined the military as a young man, driven by a fierce love for his country and a desire to protect it from the shadows of foreign aggression. He rose quickly, his sharp mind and unwavering resolve earning him command over sensitive operations. The dead man's switch was a metaphor for the entire Iranian command structure. A fail-safe system where no single leader held absolute power without checks, where authority cascaded like a chain reaction, ensuring that even in death, the mission endured. Retired now, in the quiet of his modest home in the suburbs of Tehran, Amir often reflected on that night, explaining to curious journalists or old comrades how the system worked: redundant layers of command, encrypted protocols, and human elements intertwined like vines. But the real story, the one that stirred his soul, was not about military mechanics. It was about the moment humanity pierced through the armor of duty. As the bunker shook from distant explosions, perhaps real, perhaps drills, Amir's mind raced back to 2003, during the height of tensions with Iraq and the looming American presence. He had been stationed in a forward base, overseeing artillery units. One fateful day, his superiors ordered a strike on a suspected insurgent hideout in a border village. Intelligence was spotty, but orders were orders. Amir gave the command, and the shells rained down. Later, touring the rubble to assess damage, he stumbled upon a scene that shattered him. Amidst the debris, a young girl, no more than 8, clutched a tattered doll, her eyes wide with terror but alive, miraculously unharmed. Her name was Sarah, and she was an orphan now, her family buried under the weight of his decision. In that moment, something in Amir cracked. He knelt beside her, his uniform stained with dust, and whispered apologies in a voice choked with regret. Against protocol, he carried her to safety, arranging for her to be taken to a refugee camp. It was a small act, but it planted a seed of doubt in his ironclad loyalty. Years passed, and Amir buried that memory under layers of promotions and medals. He became an expert in the command structure, lecturing cadets on the dead man's switch principle, how it prevented betrayal by ensuring mutual destruction if any link failed. "It's not just technology," he'd say, his voice steady. "It's the human element. Trust, but with safeguards." But privately, Sarah's face lingered, a reminder that structures, no matter how robust, couldn't account for the fragility of the human heart. By 2015, as nuclear talks with the world powers teetered on the edge, Amir found himself in that bunker, assigned to a critical node in the chain. The switch in his hand was literal, a biometric device linked to launch codes. If he faltered, backups would engage, but his role was pivotal. Intelligence claimed an Israeli drone strike was inbound, aimed at crippling their facilities. The order came: prepare for retaliation. But then, an unexpected transmission crackled through the secure line. not from command, but from a hacked civilian channel. It was a voice message, frantic and pleading, from a woman in a nearby town. "Please, General Khosravi," she said, her words trembling. "My daughter is in the path. She's just a child. Remember Sarah?" Amir's blood ran cold. How did she know? The voice continued. The woman was Sarah's adoptive mother, and Sarah, now a young woman, was working as a teacher in a village that would be collateral in any launch. The message was a desperate Hail Mary, smuggled through underground networks by peace activists risking everything. In that instant, the dead man's switch felt heavier than ever. Amir's finger hovered, sweat beading on his brow. The command structure demanded action, but his humanity screamed for pause. He thought of his own family, his wife, Layla, who had stood by him through endless deployments, and their son, Reza, who dreamed of a world without war. Reza had once asked him, "Baba, why do we fight? Can't we just talk?" Amir had dismissed it as childish naivety, but now, in the bunker, those words echoed like thunder. An unexpected turn came when a subordinate burst in, reporting a glitch in the system, a false alarm, perhaps triggered by cyber interference. But Amir knew better. It was a window, a brief moment to act. Instead of tightening his grip, he released the switch momentarily, triggering a manual override protocol that delayed the sequence. He radioed command, fabricating a technical malfunction to buy time. It was treasonous, a breach in the unbreakable chain, but in that act of selflessness, he reached out to the woman via a secure back channel, assuring her that the launch was averted, for now. As minutes stretched into hours, Amir's mind whirled with profound realization. The command structure, with its dead man switches and redundancies, was designed to protect a nation, but at what cost to individual souls? He recalled lectures from his retirement, where he explained to audiences in the West, via video calls to think tanks in Washington, how Iran's military operated not out of aggression, but fear of annihilation. "It's a shield," he'd say, "forged in the fires of history." But now, he saw it as a cage, trapping good men in cycles of violence. In the bunker, he made a call that changed everything. He contacted a neutral intermediary, a Swiss diplomat he had met during talks, and leaked just enough to force a de-escalation. It was an act of compassion, risking his life and career, but it saved thousands, including Sarah. The climax built as command discovered the delay. Alarms wailed anew, and guards stormed the bunker. Amir stood firm, his hand now free of the switch, which he had disabled with a hidden code he alone knew. A secret failsafe he had installed years ago, born from that day with Sarah. "Stop!" he commanded, his voice booming with authority earned over decades. "This isn't protection, it's madness. We are more than our orders." His subordinates hesitated, their loyalty tested. One, a young captain named Hossein, stepped forward, eyes wide. "General, they'll execute you." Amir smiled faintly. "Then let my death be the switch that breaks the chain." In that moment, an act of generosity unfolded. Hossein, inspired by Amir's stand, rallied the others. They secured the bunker, not for war, but for peace, contacting higher-ups with a unified plea for restraint. Word spread like wildfire through the ranks. The false alarm was confirmed, but Amir's intervention had prevented a knee-jerk response that could have ignited a regional inferno. Sarah, learning of it later, traveled to Tehran to meet him under house arrest. "You saved me twice," she said, tears streaming. "First as a child, now as a woman." Their embrace was a symbol of humanity's power. The general and the girl, bound not by blood or duty, but by kindness. Amir's trial was swift, but public outcry, fueled by leaked stories of his heroism, led to a pardon. He retired fully, dedicating his life to advocating for dialogue between nations. But the story didn't end there. In his later years, Amir traveled to the United States, invited by veterans groups to speak on bridging divides. In a packed hall in New York, he explained the Iranian command structure not as a threat, but as a human construct, flawed yet redeemable. "The true dead man's switch," he said, his voice cracking with emotion, "is our conscience. Release it, and destruction follows. Hold it with compassion, and we build a better world." Audiences rose in applause, moved by his tale of selflessness. Reza, now a diplomat, stood beside him, proud. Layla whispered, "You did it, my love." Yet, deeper layers unfolded. Amir learned that Sarah had become an activist, founding schools for war orphans across the Middle East. Her work inspired thousands, a ripple from his one act. An unexpected turn came when, during a tense negotiation in Geneva, American delegates referenced Amir's story, using it to humanize discussions. "If a general can choose kindness over command," one said, "so can we." Agreements were signed, tensions eased. Amir's profound realization that structure served people, not the other way around, sparked a global movement of military personnel sharing stories of conscience over orders. As the sun set on his life, Amir sat with his grandchildren, telling them of the bunker night. "Remember," he said, "in every system, there's a human heart. Nurture it with generosity, and it transforms the world." His message resonated across borders, reminding Americans of their own values. Liberty, empathy, the pursuit of happiness not just for oneself, but for all. In a world of switches and safeguards, Amir's legacy was simple. One act of compassion can disarm the mightiest arsenal.